What you doing?
I make the chocolate bomb inside the boiled milk.
What's a chocolate bomb? Can you show me?
The chocolate bomb is like when you put in the boiled milk. Buggy just licked my hand.
Buggy, sit down. Sit, Bug. Good boy. So, what do you got there? What kind of chocolate bomb is that?
Cocoa bomb.
A cocoa bomb? Who got you that?
So the Clausens.
Isn't that nice?
The Clausens got us.
Oh, that was very nice of the
Do you
Clausens.
like the bear?
I do like the
Isn't
bear.
it cute?
Should we check on our milk, see if it's boiling yet?
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. Oh,
Oh, it's boiling.
it's boiling. Okay. So what do we do now?
You pour it to the mug.
Okay. So, why don't you put the cocoa bomb?
Can I pour it to the mug?
Yeah, you can. There you go. He says, "Oh no!" What do the directions say? Let's see.
Stir. Well.
So you get a spoon. It says stir well
With the spoon.
till it dissolves. Whoa. Whoa, it's falling apart. Oh my. Is he screaming? So, no, I'm melting. Ooh, what's in there, Katie? What is that? Is there something secret inside?
Marshmallow.
Whoa. What do you think about that?
I like it.
It's very cool. Never seen one of these before, have you?
I have.
You have? I like this. All right. You have to taste it. Sip very slowly because it's going to be very hot. What do you think? How is it?
It's so good.
That's good. So, thank you, Clausens.
Thank you, Clausens.
What are you doing?
Modeling like a penguin.
Are you a penguin?
Yeah.
What do you think a penguin says?
I don't know.
Do dogs eat penguins?
No.
No.
I guess I better get the camera positioned. Not to show any of the disorganization around here. And I could have kept the scene up. I didn't haul in any other items close to the camera either. That blocks my path to grab stuff sometimes. Well, deep. So we're live, and I've got my windows pretty well arranged. I think I even yes, organized mess. I even went through and since had the issues last week, I left the system, my recording system, running all night, and that was fine. I mean, just left it idling, and I've seen in practice that it. I kind of went through and measured. It's about 25 to 30 minutes, and I think it's just because of mechanical drive, and I've got so much stuff tied into my OneDrive synchronization. So all the systems, I do screenshots and everything else, which throws it up in the cloud when I press print screen. It's real nice to go through and save those images. I can go through and I can edit that stuff later on. But all that synchronization, it requires that the systems are going to go through and check what images they have, what they need to upload, what they need to download. And I think Windows 10 and the update cycle plays into this a lot too. That I have other systems with mechanical drives, Windows 10, and they have that same delay. In fact, I'm ready to take One Think Center back to Windows 7, and because I have a better Windows 10 system there, and I have an SSD on that system. I went through and built, and thank you, Hugh. And that has none of the upload, download, and of course that's on a little bit better of the internet connection. So it it just doesn't have that same delay in the hard drive time. And in reality, I need to go through and replace my recording system anyway with a better desktop system, SSD on it, that doesn't ramp up the resources on the system. And it used to be where I could go through in the summertime, I'd have this studio and I would go to recording and I can hear the fan ramp up on the laptop. And so I need to have a system that's just better. And the CPU and the RAM, it's able to handle that, but in the laptop form factor. And yeah, Windows 10 on a mechanical drive, and there's I guess a real viable thing for SSDs and to go through and use them. And the update cycle on Windows 10 is kind of painful too. And I've been dealing with a couple systems. In fact, I've got to return one system today that I was working on that I had to rebuild Windows 10 on. And I have found in practice that if you run a little bit more of the bleeding edge, if you're current on the semi-annual updates, it seems like Windows 10 does pretty good running, although there's still where it wants to do those incremental updates And so sometimes if you leave a, and remember, Microsoft is calling that, it's Windows as a service now. And the operating system, they want just that, that they don't want so many variations of Windows 10 out there. They want to have one, people having one consistent version, and that's just not possible. With all the people in the world running Windows 10, that's just not possible to have, and on the wide variety of machines that it runs on. That's just not, how do we ever get here, I guess. um, there's a lot for diversity in the computer side, I guess. So, but yeah, I've got to go through and, don't hate me. It's an HP. I've got it ready. And I went to, and it's crashing right on on boot, right as you go to log in. Little HP, nice consumer grade box, I guess. And it seemed like it's all right. And it had 4 gigabyte of RAM, and I doubled that to 8 gigabyte. And the DIMMs are just harder than heck to get at. It's got a metal drive tray over the top. And HP, when they went in the slimline cases, I've got my other slimline case, and just yick. It's just cramped. It's convoluted. They go through and they put a desktop motherboard in there, and then the slimline case, they just add on stuff from there. But I've got Windows rebuilt. I've up to the latest Windows version, and then that semi-annual release that Windows does now. And well, and I've got my Dells around too. And Dell does good in, I really like actually the Precision line. And be it also the towers and also the laptops. The Precisions are, they've gone a lot smaller now. I like the big laptops, and that's probably why they got reduced, is they're just so huge. And I love my M 6800, and my old work took it back from me. Because it was their system. Yeah, and I don't know what the happy medium is, because like I say, the newer Windows 10, the semi-annual updates, they seem to run better for me. But if you have it, running the latest build, it goes through and it still wants to do these damn monthly updates. And I found actually that's when the hard drive use source. It's going through and it's downloading those updates, and then it just kind of languishes till you reboot, and then it's got to sort things out, and then you do the update, and then it seems like it's fine for a little bit. And at least I'm not getting prompted. Windows is doing, it doesn't take as long. Microsoft has at least done a little bit of work on the reboot cycles and things like that, after it goes through. But so we're up talking about current stuff. I even have my and without an issue on the local hard drive being saturating on reads and writes, I instead have my firewall up, And I did do even, and so I've got my OBS screen running up here. In fact, let's do, there's a, I wanted to show this one. I did it on this machine. And okay, that's going to show kind of small. I'll go through and I'll size that. And I'll briefly hide. I mean, and I probably don't want to go as big a screen like that. Let's do that. Let's do that. That works. I'd have this image. We're talking about Windows updates and everything else. What is the yeah, with DOS? And you know, Steve Gibson did the Never 10 when for the Windows 7 users that would be so they wouldn't get prompted to update to Windows 10. And now a similar utility needs to be done for Windows 10, so those systems that can run Windows 11 don't get prompted. I got a couple of those around, including the system I just worked on. Told me, hey, this thing can run Windows 11. Well, I don't care. I don't care. I don't want to run it. But who can see the problem with that image I put up? I call it a year before, and I of course shortened B4 at the end of that the file name for that image. But it says that it has the 21H2 update, which came out in November of 2021, and it says it's installed on November of 2020. And I can't figure that out on how. And then so they have to, and of course Microsoft has to say that it's a Windows feature experience pack. The buzzwords just proliferate, and they've got to give it a numbering scheme, multiple digits, multiple dots. It's almost like a IP address. Even worse, you know, it's got a it's got the 4 octets, but they're values above they're above 8-bit values, or excuse me, above above 8-bit values. So it's you know, but the experience, your Windows experience, and it's a pack. It's a unified package. And you know, Windows 10 was supposed to be the end all of end alls of operating systems that was out there. So what does everyone else want to talk about? I mean, I've got the executive workstation back here on the bench still. There's some other stuff I need to go through as well, not to misplace that. And I follow Major Tom's advice that I wanted to see. I want to see this video going on it too, and he gave me recommendations. I tried to get into this monitor, and I don't know what the deal is with it. I'll show the catches and everything else, and maybe I can figure it out sometime. But I have a working lower tray, or the everything but the monitor section is working on this device now. And I had to replace the planer, and I had to replace the diskette drive. So all the electronics, with the exception of the power supply, and thank goodness that 8-bit guy did not get a hold of this power supply. And I even found out as on video that the I don't have a security bit for that fits that, and maybe my security bits are too cheap. The dimple that was on my security bit, you know, so maybe there's I'll just have to figure it out. The T15 seems like it fits the outside, but the dimple in there is not big enough for accessing that, and I'll have to look around and see. And I don't intend to get into the power supply. I know that he did eventually. He dremeled out the screws, and he showed the inside, but I need to go through and document the inside the PSU, what the appearance is as well. And so, but at least that lower tray assembly does. And so yeah, and so the lithium battery that's on the riser, it doesn't yeah, and the power supply is perfectly fine. I'm reading comments, of course. I went through my morning, I got caught up in other stuff, but I didn't get caught up on the latest YouTube comments. The power supply is perfectly fine, is what it looks like. And so otherwise, it's interesting because the Model 30 power supply is 90 watt. The Model 25 power supply, I'm trying to think if it's what wattage it is. If is it as low as 65? And I don't know. And it's interesting that this one on the executive workstation, and of course, it just has that listing on the back that says 1 amp, and it doesn't have any rating on output for the 5-volt rail, for the 12-volt rail. That's not shown, but it's a smaller PSU. In fact, it's about probably half the size of the Model 90. I mean, excuse me, the Model 30 90 watt, and yet for the marking of the voltage input being 100 to 125 at 1 amp would make that 100 to 125 watt power supply. Or I mean, I'm sure there's electrical losses and everything else. So no, those lithium batteries, and those are Panasonic. They're not NiCad, they're lithium. And I've seen them degrade a little bit with the plastic covering and things like that. But those lithium batteries are and this is better construction than the lithium coin cell batteries as well. They don't explode. They don't at least in my observation. I mean, without excessive heat, and lithium is bad. You don't ever want to solder onto the tabs of those batteries. But I'll probably go through and put a holder on the riser for that. And yeah, and the lithium battery is only for the real-time clock. That's all that it saves, those non-volatile counter. Um, yeah, and I'm aware of the Max and the exploding batteries. I'm sure that Mike is very aware of that stuff, of those exploding batteries, and I've seen some real horror stories on that. But on the risers, um, and in fact, I went through and I have the one riser without a battery. I went through and pulled the battery because it's the same as used on the the L40 SX laptop. Uses the same battery. That's the reason that is pulled. And I can go through. Did I scratch the PCB or anything like that when I pulled it? Yeah, a little bit. And I mean, those plate through holes should be cleared, but I can run the soldering iron over them again. And you don't want to, as I say, you don't want to have to solder tabs onto these. And those tabs are keyed that way, 2 on one side and a single on the other for a reason. And these even had, notice the holes on either side of that. That was designed, they actually put a wire, a nylon wire wrap around that, cable wrap around that battery. And they, in profile, they went through and put it right in the middle, the bulge of that, right in the middle between the two, between 2 of the 3 expansion slots, so that there wouldn't, it looks like it almost comes close enough to that lower one, but maybe they moved it down just so it wouldn't contact anything on the lower, on the solder side of that second slot. And there's your good old tantalum caps. You talk about explosive. That's got tantalum caps. It's interesting that those expansion slots are with the Texas Instruments logo. That, but these, as it's marked on there, it's a Panasonic battery, and you can still get these out there. It's a lithium battery. Matsushita, and it's a lot. And even the replaceable batteries that on the Mall 50, Mall 60, Mall 70, Mall 80, those are doubled version. It has 2 of these cells inside. Those Panasonic battery packs. And Panasonic still sells quite a bit of the of those. I think they even have like a C2, which is like supposed to mean like 2 cells to that. So let me keep up. Yeah, and I have these risers that go through and they work. I think it may even be on that planer. I need to pull out the other planers, and I might even end up switching some, because I swapped risers on that, and they it might be something with the real-time clock or the crystal or something like that got dinged around. Is a possibility. And I have another Model 30 planer. I should have gone through and checked that out to see if I get the same value. I can bench that off in the same just when I have a chance to set that stuff up, a power supply, and bench these, get some RAM out, and check them, because I have this one as well. I should have gone through and I should have I should have tested between the planers just to make sure I could get the real-time clock, because this one may be good, and that real-time clock is here. Good old National Semiconductor design. MM58167AN, made the 24th week of 1987. And there's crystals around that. I think the Y4 is for the real-time clock, and the other one, the other can, is probably for something else. Probably the video. And yeah, I should have gone through and checked to make sure that the real-time clock, because that may be on that planer that I have in here, that might be the issue, is with that, not necessarily the battery. If that crystal's bad, that real-time clock is not going to be turning over. And yeah, so I mean, I'm glad to have that lower tray assembly of the executive workstation working. And I need to get some images too, to stop using the 8-bit guys, the one that's on his bench, probably in dread of saying, oh my gosh, I hope I'm not going to be touched. But get me some pictures of that to have. And so what does everybody think of my modification to add the diskette drive cable too, to not just be the single A drive, but go through, and that could be swapped later on too. Get inside the case, you could swap that cable in, putting that Model 30 cable in, so I can put in a external diskette drive as well, and get things running. But yeah, I'll probably go through and check and see if I can get that real-time clock running, because the riser battery being good, it should run that real-time clock fine. And even if I discover a fault in it, it'd be good to pull the planer out of that and mark it for getting that working again. So yeah, I'll just go through that, and I'll be able to review the and again with the power supply, it brings up that on the Model 30, that 90 watt. It's funny that back in the early 90s, even before mid 90s, I went through, and that was at kind of the height of the Clone Wars. It was a lot of those very cheaply made systems that were out there that were being sold, 386 and 46. In fact, the 46 CPU had just appeared on the scene, and I went out shopping, and I found a 46 DX33 clone system that was being sold a little bit over $1,000 without a monitor. And I had a VGA monitor, actually Super VGA monitor, to recycle for that one. And so I got it, and looking inside the case, it has a Model 30 90 watt power supply that's been cobbled into the case. And of course, the Model 30 power supply has different mounts and everything else. So this case, in going through and forming the sheet metal, this is not a trivial thing that they did to cut corners. They probably had to produce hundreds or thousands of those cases and put in the Model 30 PSU. And I still have that case. I need to bring out pictures again. I've taken pictures in the past. And they had a wiring harness after the connectors and to give drive power and things like that. In fact, I need to pull out that harness too and take pictures of it. And then to have it connect to the a 46DX motherboard. And the company they even ran a 46DX2 66 model that they ran in the same case off of that 90-watt power supply. And so just in cutting corners, I don't know how they happened to find the surplus Model 30 power supplies. And it's the only one I've seen with that modification. But it's just interesting that they went through in a clone system, and they have this, and of course they have the physically actuated power switch in there. They coupled they did the same linkage. They didn't do an orange or a red switch, or I mean it's white, and it's but it's the same concept as on the Model 30. The mechanical linkage to turn on the power, and 90 watts to run all that. Now I've gone through and working with that case. I'll probably put I've got a 386SX clone board that I can put in there that's got a lot less power draw. And that power supply never quit, never gave any issues or anything like that for the time it was run. And just was, it's an interesting thing it's a good description on how during the Clone Wars and how corners were cut on those on systems that were sold. Yeah, and it was probably more, well, we see that we can get surplus Model 30 power supplies for X number of dollars, and or we can buy these 250-watt power supplies. Let's cut corners and get the smaller unit that is more affordable. And so if I put the 4869 adapter in the executive workstation, the 4869 drive has its own power supply in there. In fact, it's a rather big box. It's a good 3 times the size of the drive itself, and the power supply is a portion of that in the back, and 110 volts in, and it goes through and does a 5 volt and 12 volt. And at least I can mute the mic if I do things like burp and stuff like that. So, but yeah, it's we're a good halfway through the stream. I'm just reading over the comments again, and good comment flow in the chat. And yeah, and just to cut corners for the pricing of that. So that's the one thing. Now the other angle is I've received in the so-called adapter 2 token ring 8-bit that has the trace and performance ROMs on it. Now get those ROMs imaged, and so the difference between the token ring adapter for 8-bit and the token ring adapter 2 for 8-bit looks to be that they put on more RAM onto the adapter 2. And it'll be interesting looking at those trace and performance ROMs and seeing that. But it's funny that trace and performance for the 8-bit side is limited to a 4 megabit adapter. So you couldn't run trace and performance on the 16 megabit per second level from that adapter 2. And the reason for the trace and performance, one of the notions behind is you see how good your 4 megabit per second token ring network is running, that you could consider switching to a 16 megabit per second token ring. And so, it's I'll get those images, and we've got so many more of those images of the 8-bit adapters for token ring, and I really wish I could get that itemized down to what versions those different things are. Yeah, likely the higher quantity of RAM on the adapter to do the trace and performance. And so it's interesting for all that. And I tried to do a little bit of negotiation with for the trace and performance adapter too. But that'll likely come back to me in some ways. But for going through, and I'm going to have to make your own 8-bit trace and performance adapter 2 with those ROMs now. You buy it's cheaper to get the 8-bit adapter without, and it has that Azores chipset that's on those 4 megabit adapters, and you just could solder a little bit more RAM on there, and that might be a good really experimentation to put the trace and performance on the adapter 1 and see if it runs. Might be a good diagnostic, and we'll have another way to at least make the 8-bit trace and performance adapters that'll be a little bit cheaper, and kind of investigate that and get that up to. It'd be great to get that at a. In fact, I always thought it'd be kind of interesting for the auto token ring adapters that are in the ISA format. I thought it'd be interesting because those are flash-based updates, microcode on those things, and I think it'd be cool to go through and be able to have firmware that could be loaded on there that could be trace and performance. Would be a kind of a cool little thing to check out from that regard. And that's for more of the coding professionals that are in that stuff more than I am. But it might be a viable thing down the road. And I still need I contacted Ken the other day. I still need to get him the token ring adapters, and that's going to be something in this upcoming week that I delayed while I was on my trip to Computer Reset. And I've got the adapters laid out, and I will go through and do some good chip samples, and we can see if some of those chips otherwise are the Spyglass code mask that's in there on those chip versions. And so there's going to be more token ring content that's coming. And there's actually so much more content. There's an overload of content that could be. I would like to also dive into the VGA aspects, the different chips, the different why so many different chip versions are look to be pin compatible. Now, I did get a reply back from Eric from Tube Time US that he had done a Twitch stream, and he's thinking that the of course Twitch has gotten rid of it after a few months. So yeah, if it does exist in video on demand that was captured, that would be great. And he made the comment that the die that they used on the MCGA, it looks to be kind of dense. And him and Ken, it's interesting for the mention of names. Eric and Ken, they have a somewhat recent Twitter post of probably about a week ago, and they were going through and they had to decode a ROM storage by eyeball, by going through and looking at rows and columns of how it was arranged, and it was a dense form factor. But they actually had a race. They had where they would take pictures under a digital microscope, and Ken would work on those images and getting that decoded. And Eric would go through, and I don't know if he had a transcription device to go through to keep his place, or a person doing transcription for him, but he did it by eye, and he won the race. He went through and read out the rows and columns for that. It'd even be interesting. Let me look for, because it was and I can put up links, but it was a real dense format. And Eric is even saying that the MCGA, when he was investigating, it was such a dense factor that it was hard to the code mask in this case was effectively a mask over things. And of course, we certainly want to talk about mask in the current age, but it was masking the view of the die structure. So yeah, I want to see if there's so I need to go in on Ken's, because that was where it was announced on his Twitter. And of course, he's had a lot of other interesting stuff too. Let's go to his profile. So I'll give a link since I can in the meantime. This is Ken Sharif. I think I'm pronouncing, that's his Twitter. Do you happen to have a 5251 or 3278 terminal? Yes, I have I think I have one or two 5251 terminals. They will eventually come out in a video, and that'll probably be the studio that I'm planning to set up otherwise, to get cleaned up and get functional, because that's closer to where those terminals are. and I will present 5251 on screen. I also have a 5252, which is a double header, and you had operators on either side, and you had keyboards on either side for those operators. And there's some kind of way that it split the 24 rows of video to 12 rows on each side for the CRTs. I don't know if it's integrated, but that'll be interesting to have on video as well because it's humongous. I call them hernia terminals because they're so huge. And the 5252 has got some density to it that I will show on video and have to see how that they split the output between the CRTs. Now I don't have the 5100. I do have a 5120, and I've got the basic model of that, and I've got a printer with it. That's the looks very similar to the so-called System 23 Data Master, and that is a very heavy system as well. And that will be could be brought out in that studio, that other studio as well. And it's not as accessible on the inside for the 5120, and the so 3278 terminal I don't have, and 32, and even more fascinating now though, after my return from Computer Reset, I have a second 3290. And it's even interesting, the other I talked about OneDrive earlier, which OneDrive goes through and does the archiving of the anniversary of pictures that you took. And the one the image for the OneDrive that was they call it on this day, and it's actually a picture I took of the bottom side of the 3290 terminal. And that is an interesting terminal, and I'll bring that out because that is a yeah, I can probably clear the notifications. Maybe I need to get on my OneDrive. But it was the 3290 is a real interesting terminal because that's the orange plasma. Like the PS2, P70, and P75 have. And in fact, I'm still looking at that. I'm still looking up the. So here. And oh, they've got all kinds of orange plasma. Screens. There's the let's do that image. And this is this looks to be the type, the Model 1, I think. Because it looks different from, and this even looks more classical than yeah, they even marked the model there. I'm going to go through and reduce. Well, I could go through and I could hide my, yeah, because that fits perfect for the, relatively perfect for the, so yeah, if I have to hide my, so that's the 3290 terminal. And that is, I think that even looks cleaner than the 3290-2 that I have. I almost like that appearance of that a little bit. I think that's a lot deeper though. And that is the base on that. It's different too. It's a lot bigger assembly. And yeah, those badges, and there's almost a market. And I've seen those the badges uh, where there's been people that have tried to reproduce those to make them look authentic. Um, yeah, the case badge, and I luckily have the case badge on my 3270 machines. Um, yeah, they're interesting, and really they do give a setup screen without being connected to a mainframe. And of course, I have to see on what level of my 3174, which is going to require a little bit of room to set up too, what the link would be for that um, to be able to present. And I'll give a link to the page too, because it's got a listing. It's got all kinds of plasma displays on that. So, but it's got a section, and that's supposed to be 1983 technology. Um, yeah, it's always available in replay hue. So there's the link for that page where that image is at, and it shows how the depth. There's another picture from the side for that. Let me. I don't know if I want to go through. Well, yeah, I can go through and we'll do that image too. And I'll show that right before I go through and I hope it's the same. I hope it's the same dimensions. Scaled. Okay, well that's fine. See the depth, and that actually looks, to me, that looks nicer behind it. That it's got the power switch, it's got the keys. So over to the left, there's that smaller terminal, and the Model 2 of the 3290 has a rim around the screen like that. Of course, but it's bigger. It's just as big as, and it's actually the Model 2 version is, it's just that front assembly. It doesn't have that whole back piece and that foot um, for reducing kind of the size. It actually has more of it's got a like a more like a metal tripod leg for it, and that IBM went to that, and of course that rim around the screen too. Those pieces are easily broken, and so there's that. That's still a Model 1. There's another one. I'm looking for the Model 2 like I have. That, but you'll see that on video. You'll see that when I present it. And I'm looking, and of course, the interesting aside for that is I'm looking for the 3270 PC version of that. There's the same it's a screen that connects up to the 3270 PC that outside it looks the same way as the Model 2 3290. And of course those have got to be pretty rare for what's out there. Now back to the Ken Sheriff post. And he has other die photos on his page. And there's talk about the 1401 on his page, on his Twitter. Okay. Getting back. There's the 555. Maybe it was Eric's post that he was responding to. So let me see if I can find can I find Eric's page? So okay, I have too many subscriptions to or follow too many people on Twitter that I've got to scroll through. I guess I could search, couldn't I? Be easier to find his page. Okay. So where is that post? Okay. There's a lot of other EEPROM reads in there that he's got. Okay, let's do this. This is Eric's Tube Time US, his Twitter. I can do that at least. And I'm gonna spend, yeah, he's got a bunch of tweets out there, so it's good. It would take some time, but there's a contest between him and Ken for decoding. It's in there somewhere that they raced each other for their styling. Oh, and let's do this. Because I know that this has, and it's not very evident in how it shows up here, but I know what this is. In fact, we're going to do this. We're going to do that as a browser capture. We're going to see how Twitter displays on under OBS. Okay. So hide my webcam again here. Oh, and I've got to interact with it. So this is the microchannel postcard that Eric is working on right now. And is there a way to hide the sign up? And as I say, OBS goes through and presents the browser capture as its own plugin. It doesn't, it doesn't have the browser personalization, of course. Or at least I get that on my interaction screen. I don't get that on. So, and there's a schematic for it. So, yeah, all the layers. Isn't that just neat though? For all that, I knew that he was in process of still going through and designing it, but and there's it's as a two digit, and so really and there's apparently an earlier design that he did that to get that even the interact does it does differently, shows differently from how I see it on the window that shows it should be visible. And so there's his earlier design. In fact, it looks like he had it as a 4-digit version there. And really, for all that, if every microchannel PS2 has a parallel port, and you can get a parallel port postcode reader for that, that's and I understand that this doesn't have a an ADF or anything like that, but to me that's a simpler way to do it. In fact, external to the case as it is, you can plug in that, and heck, for all that, why not have it on a little extension? And I could even have a longer cable than this. That, have it on a little parallel port extension like that. I need to come up with a rig that maybe I can form and kind of have some rigidity to it that holds it up in a particular way. And then, of course, the power, which I've done that, so I can plug into the mouse port for that. But, if that works and that cheap, I mean, this is a surplus cable I found around my bin. And these things, you can get them delivered for less than $10 USD. I have spares of these. I need to send out. In fact, I'm sending out a spare of these to someone. Why not just come up with that rig? But I'm not wanting to dampen. Yeah, more flexible, and it yeah, and it's I don't want to diminish the design because experimentation too is a whole nother aspect. And even for the and I've got my postcard readers off another place. I've got one with the extension of the digits on an insulation displacement cable that's actually quite long. And that's for going through and running outside. Yeah, I know that you're doing video editing, Chris, and everything. And you're just right. In fact, I've gone over on my hour. But we're getting um, all the drop-ins at this point for an interesting stream that's had some pretty good um, chat window contents and everything else. We've got this um, executive workstation that we actually found out is actually more true to the badge being a custom terminal, and in the background, and we were talking about it. But that's I've got to go through. I didn't pick up my breakfast this morning because it always I don't ever get it eaten, and it diminishes what I get later on for lunch. And I'm gonna get yeah, it doesn't need to be an hour exactly, Jesse. I've gone 2.5 hours before. Um, and I just go with the flow for if it's got good content go into it, like maybe now. Why go through and end anything prematurely? Um, and I'm just noticing I'm looking through on talking about the audio bit rate again on this thing, and I've got my firewall up. Wow, and viewership's been pretty good for all that. It to when I scroll down to look, it's had a peak of about what YouTube marks it as is 9 concurrent viewers. And I don't really care on that either. That it, you know, the people that want to be here, they can be here, and I'd hope that I have more views and everything else and good chat. It's a good chat participation level as it is too. And I can understand a lot of people just lurk and like to watch, but so I've got that. So yeah, with the executive workstation, I still got to get into this monitor. I've got things to go through for it, and as I say, I need to try this riser out on my other planer because the real time clock update on this might be something with a crystal or something else like that. And so I'll bench that out today and to go through. And for this upcoming week, I just don't know how. I don't know what I really have planned for videos coming up. You're saying it's a Lenovo ThinkPad, and of course I heard during the switch from IBM to Lenovo for the PC line, I've heard that the ThinkPad stayed under IBM production just a little bit longer before it switched over to Lenovo as well, just to kind of for the quality angle and maybe for even a little bit of the Think Center stuff too. And That's okay. I have a Think pad that's Lenovo. It's marked as Lenovo around here too. It even is one of the tablet form factors, and or can be made into a tablet, and I like that. And of course, I use my Lenovo um, Chromebook quite a bit. I even have two of them to go through and use on a pretty regular basis. Um, so yeah, it's so I just have to see what comes up on video, but I'm expecting a little bit more in this next week. I'm going to touch on token ring a little bit more. I'm not going to get back really intense on it or anything like that. But there's some other content that I think will pop up otherwise. And yeah, even if the ThinkPads have gone over and being and so the manufacturer of the ThinkPads, everything that how it was produced under IBM, as I have those plants are still being used by Lenovo to a large extent in that shift of ownership. But Lenovo being a Chinese company, it'd be interesting to probe at the production now of how Lenovo comes up with that stuff. And I've actually got a ThinkPad. In fact, I'm not really sure of the model number right off the top of my head. I know that it is a mid-level unit, not as new as the T40, T42 level that I have, but it is it's running Windows 98. It does not have a built-in NIC on the system itself, although I'm sure it can be put on a dock that has one. It does have the PCMCA slots, and that was what I was kind of looking at, because the thought is that it can run the token ring PCMCA and things like that for the NIC there. And I just got it. It was a good system that I latched onto when I saw it, because I thought it was pretty good. So I'll be pulling that out. I'll actually be unboxing that likely for a video and using it. But yeah, and thanks Major Tom for popping in. I think it's I've got a little bit busier of day coming up too, that I will be moving around a lot of stuff, and so I think I've got to start looking at what is lunchtime for me here. But great chat level responses. I think this is a very good stream. I had lots of fun with it. And I will go through and, of course, have the next live stream on this same Saturday schedule. And it's a good time slot for me, I think. But all good things must come to an end at some point. So I think I'm going to go through and I'll close out the stream. Thanks for everybody for tuning in, responding in chat, and looking at the material that I covered today. But that's and you can always, there's always that replay, Hugh. I know that you'll be going through for that, and I'll have to go through and edit this to pull out that half hour even lead beforehand. And I mean to go through and work with my live videos to go through and not, to cut out that content so that when people view and replay, or at least timestamp it, that they can skip ahead. But this is IBM Museum. And that's all I have for now. Thank you.